Good morning, everyone.
Hey, Peter, how you doing?
Doing well. How about you?
Good, good. Morning, Andy and Ramey. How's everybody?
Can't complain.
That makes one of us.
Well, I could, but there's nobody to listen.
That's the whole theme of our next hour, isn't it?
Yeah.
Save that one. That's a good zinger for when we're live here. Yeah. That, I'm really curious to hear how you cope with that. You retired. No, thank you, Adam. Andy. In 2020, Ramey retired and accepted a consulting role with Ramey, Kemp and Associates, and he's guided the company through a tremendous growth. In 2020, the company had approximately 500 transportation engineering projects, which is a pretty large number to me. So welcome, Ramey. Thanks for being here with us. And second guest today is Peter Trencansky. Peter founded Patriot Transportation Engineering in 2013 and is currently the president. Peter specializes in utilization of simulation software and has been program manager for intersection interchange and RCI corridor projects for NCDOT's prioritization process since 2013. So Peter, also welcome. Thanks for joining us today. Really appreciate both of you being here. And I wanted to have both of you on here because I think that hopefully you'll offer a bit of a different perspective or maybe one, maybe lockstep, but two different viewpoints on entrepreneurship throughout our time here is what I was hoping for. And a little disclosure from me is that I was on the board of directors of Ramey, Kemp and Associates for about 10 years, I think, and everything I know about companies I learned from that. So thanks, Ramey, for that experience. And then further disclosure, I guess Peter was one of my students back at NC State, so I always root for him. So I like these guys, I root for them as well, so that now we've fully disclosed all those conflicts, which I don't think should affect this conversation at all. So let me start with the big one. Ramey, why'd you start your company? You had, as far as I know from your resume, you had a perfectly good job that you could have done very well for X number of years. After that, why'd you leave a perfectly good job to do something like start your own company? Oh, and we've got a sound issue with Ramey. Andy, any help you can provide there? Okay, well, they're working on that. Let's lob the first one to Peter. What you also perfectly good job. Yeah, previous job. Why'd you leave a perfectly good job to go start a company?
Really, it was actually by accident. I wish I had a good story to say, you know, I went out there and I researched and I did all this work and, you know, or I always wanted to do this, but really it was really 100% by accident. As many of you may know, I worked at URS Corporation, which is now part of AECOM. Was there for about 14 years, tremendously successful. We grew. I joined the firm in 1999, where we had 13 employees. When I left in 2013, it was about 80 people in transportation. All of that was organic growth. We had double-digit growth every year I was there. And we were very successful. We had a lot of work. And I kind of always told myself I was going to work really hard, build up a reputation for myself, and then kind of, live off that once I had kids and enjoy life a little more. But it never really works out as you plan. So I had been very successful. We were working a lot. I'd always told myself I was going to leave work every day at 4 o'clock. And I did that, except, the amount of work I had to do and the stress, I just kept coming in earlier and earlier every day, and to the point where it wouldn't be uncommon to wake up at 1 a.m. and go to work, which meant I really wasn't doing a whole lot when I got home at 4 o'clock. And so at that point, I had 3 children. My youngest was 9 months old. And I remember sitting on the couch one night, and they were all running around doing what 3 young kids do. And I thought to myself, I can't wait for these kids to go to bed so I can relax. And it's one of those moments where you catch yourself and you're like, wow, did that thought just run through my head? And I thought about it a little more. And then that night, I was sitting there talking to my wife, and my wife, for any of you that know her, she doesn't work outside the home. She does a tremendous amount of work, but doesn't get paid for it. I said to her, I think I'm going to quit my job. And that's how I started the conversation. And she looked at me and she said, I'm 100% in favor. So I essentially did that. I went in the next day and resigned. Because I worked so much, I had about 6 months of vacation saved up, which I got paid when I left. And I've been involved in a lot of projects, some of them for a number of years. And when I left, a lot of the DOT clients said, well, wherever you go, we're gonna have to add you back as a sub-consultant until we can transition these projects, which meant I had, basically a year of backlog. And I said, well, I could bring that with me to another firm, or I could just start my own firm and see where it goes. And really, so I started a firm and haven't looked back. So that's really the reason for why I started my company.
Yeah, I got to disagree with you there, Peter. That's a really good story, actually. That's you started out. I was kind of ready to be let down. That's no letdown. That's terrific. Ramey, you got sound? Are you back with us? No, not hearing you, Ramey. One more try.
Yeah, let me see if I can, because he's not muted.
Okay. Yep.
So I'm not sure exactly how. We may have to get him on the phone.
Okay.
I heard something there.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Now we got you.
Yep.
Yes.
Can you hear?
Yeah, we got you now.
Yes.
We had it all working till I got that you were recording this, and I had to agree to it before I was going to be heard or seen. So we've had to work around all of that to get to this point. But Joe, I appreciate you putting this together, and I hope that we're able to pass along some information to people that are participating. So you asked the question, why did I start a company? And when I was, it started at an early age, but when I got to high school, I had a good friend, Lloyd Junker, that he and I got together in the 10th grade and decided where we were going to go to college, what business we were going to start with, and that we were going to be lifelong friends, partners forever, and we were going to own a business, and it was going to do a lot of things. And that's where it all started. So when I took a job with NCDOT, it was with the mind that I wanted to be there as long as I could learn. And I learned a lot. DOT is a great place to learn a lot about highway engineering. And I was fortunate enough to come along at a time when roadway design was a great place to be, because we were building the state's interstate program, the initial program. And and we did a lot of the traffic engineering for those highways. The traffic engineering department functioned more as an operations group than an analysis group. And so we ended up doing the traffic analysis for the interchanges, the roadways. So it was a good time. It was a good time to learn. And I managed to win a Federal Highway Administration fellowship and got into that program for a year and got my Master's of Civil Engineering. So, and that was a great help because the master's program in civil engineering at NC State is a great program for any young engineer who finishes 4 years of college. That's the next step. And after I went through that, I was committed to work 3 more years by the fellowship requirements. And then I left DOT. So you asked why leave a good job. I had a good job. And yes, I left it because I had other ideas. I went to work for a Vulcan Materials company down in Birmingham, Alabama, and learned quite a bit about the construction materials side of the business. Vulcan's the biggest stone business in the country. So they had a lot to teach me. Then I left and went with Brown and Root. At that time was part of Halliburton. And we had some of the biggest projects that we were working on in the world at that point. It was a great place to be, and they had a great program. It was their idea of what an ESOP should be. If you worked for the first 5 years at Brown and Root and you bought 1 share of stock, for every share of stock you bought, they bought a stock, they bought a share. In 3 years, you were vested. So you had limits on how much you could buy, but they matched you 1 for 1. Then the second 5 years, 2 for 1. Third 5 years, 3 for 1. When you hit 20 years, you were getting 4 shares of Brown and Root stock or Halliburton stock for every stock share you purchased. So it was a great program. They put me into the management program, which in a department of 150 people was there were only 9 project managers. It was a great place to be, but my wife wanted to return to North Carolina. And so I got a call from a consultant who wanted me to come in and head up their Raleigh office. And it was a great opportunity. We built the office to roughly 60 people. Had some great people working there. Henry Lyles, Chris Glass, just a great staff of people. Morris Israel, just some great people. But Frank Coleman called and told me he had a challenging project and needed help. Frank had a contract to do Alexander Drive from Miami Boulevard to US 70, 4-lane the roadway. We had 9 months to do the surveys, work out the right of way, do a CE on the project, get the design done, and get it to NCDOT for construction purposes. 9 months from beginning, that's starting with surveys, from beginning to turning into plans to DOT for them to go through their checking process. That was an incredible schedule. We made it. It was a real challenge. Frank picked up another large project, a 5,000-acre office development in Richmond, Virginia, out on the west side of Richmond, and convinced me I needed to head that up. So I was ready to go out on my own already. But at that point, the job was too challenging. We wanted to move a belt line, 295. We wanted to move that location to the center of our 5,000-acre office development. It was already located. They'd already done the environmental study, but we convinced VDOT to move it about 3 miles to the center of our development. So when that was to the point where we had pretty much designed all the preliminary work and let the first 4 miles of roadway, that's when I told the company that I was leaving. That was in February. I told them I would find my replacement and I would get all the projects cleaned up before I left. So in February, I turned in my notice. In August, I left. So I gave everybody plenty of time. I didn't tell any of my clients I was leaving. I walked away. At that point, I was doing a little bit of Walmart work, and Walmart was expanding greatly, and Walmart chased me down and found me. So that's how we got going.
Very good. And I heard a couple common elements between the two of you. That was that you made the move, but had some business to bring with you. You weren't starting out from ground zero as far as business development goes, and the involvement of your spouse in the decision there was both of you mentioned that pretty important factor.
Yeah, but I want to point out Walmart didn't call me for a year. I had a lot of scurrying around to do, but I used it as a good marketing time.
Yeah.
And marketing is so important to this business. Yeah. And you can't emphasize it enough.
Speaking of that, did either of you do any sort of formal business plan or market analysis before you made the plunge? Is there?
It's on my to-do list. I haven't gotten there yet.
Ramey, the same?
I've started several times, Joe, but I think the basics were always there. I didn't want to own a company by myself. I wanted partners.
Yep.
Brian and Ruth taught me the importance of that. And the bringing people in, like I was on my own for 3 years, and then Monty Urban agreed to join. And when Monty came into the company, I convinced him to buy some of the stock, and I realized it was going to be very difficult to get engineers to put up their money to buy stock. We had to come up with a way to get this done without expecting them to put up money. And initially, I loaned Monty the money, and he paid every bit of it back with interest. But still, it was the thing of it's a big decision for somebody that you're trying to recruit into your company.
And I've heard from other entrepreneurs that taking on a partner it is a big decision and can backfire very badly if it's the wrong partner. That it can go south and basically take the business with you. So, but sometimes it's a risk you got to take, right?
Well, luckily, I'd worked with Monty for years before we decided to make this move, and I had the choice of a number of people, and chose Monty.
Peter, Ramey mentioned several people in his background there that I would take that they were sort of mentors or role models in his process of getting going. But is there anybody you sort of had in that role?
Yeah, I mean, I have really a lot of mentors. Tim Keener, who was at URS, he was a regional manager on up through, I'm not sure he retired at, but Tim was definitely a mentor of mine. And actually Troy Peoples, who I connected to through the Site mentorship program. Troy was just a tremendous resource and actually challenged me the first few times I met with him, I walked away feeling stupider because I didn't know any of the answers, and it pushed me to learn a lot and to know things and have a knowledge base. But yeah, I mean, I think Troy on the business development side, of his was the biggest influence for me. Yep.
Ramey, tell me about the early days. So you said it was August, and what's the first week like at your new company? Are you in the basement, or do you actually have office space or staff, or what would that look like?
I started the company in the lower level of my house, which was part garage and part room that we had renovated and had made it into a room. But basically, it was the lower level and the what you might call a basement. Yep. But that's where I started and stayed there for 3 years. And it was an interesting time because at one point, the head of development for one of the largest mall companies in the mall development companies in the country called me and said he wanted to meet with me. He had a project that he wanted to talk to me about, and I've been highly recommended. And so I said, well, look, we can meet at an architect's office that I was doing a lot of work for at that time, or we can meet at my office, which is the lower level of my house. He said, let's meet at your house. So I set up a card table and put a cloth over it and had two card table chairs and brought him in through the garage door into my garage. And we sat there and had a meeting for an hour. And he told me years later that was the most interesting meeting he'd ever had with anybody. But I ended up working for him for years until mall development kind of died away.
Yeah, you know, I'm sure it showed that you're a genuine person. Here I am. Here's the company. I mean, you're not hiding anything.
No.
Peter, what'd your first week or weeks look like?
Well, actually, when I started out, one of the deals I made with my wife is I would only work 2 days a week. So it was a little challenging to start a business working 2 days a week. But after a few months, I transitioned back to full time. But I started. We have basically a room off of our garage. So my commute was double if somebody pulled the car in too far. So it was really just a small room in my garage. I was there for about a year. And then I added a small office with basically an office and a conference room. And then 2 years later, hired my first employee, and then expanded to my current space, which is with the 5 of us or 6 of us. So it's been a slow growth and just trying to not grow too fast but still have the ability to expand.
Peter, you mentioned that hiring your first employee, and I've heard that from others too, that is a big milestone. That
it is. And actually for me, it was, it was challenging to find people, especially and lure them to a small firm. And I got lucky. It was actually an out-of-state person who Caliper, who develops Transmodel, recommended to me, and they were looking for an opportunity down here, and was a great fit. So it was a little extra stressful because you were asking somebody to relocate their family to another state to come work with you, but worked out well. One thing I'm proud of is we have 5 employees, and I've never had anybody leave. So that to me is one of the ways I measure success is that people stay around and feel comfortable enough here that they don't want to look for other opportunities.
That's terrific. Yeah. Ramey, did you hire somebody before you brought in Monty, partner up with Monty, or was he your first?
Yeah, we developed slowly, Joe. It was a matter of what I could afford. I actually did well the first 3 years revenue wise, but the revenue and this is interesting. The revenue was small the first year. The second year it was a little bit larger. Then the third year it just boomed. It just took off. And I'll have to attribute a lot of that to marketing. Getting out, I spent at least a third to half of my time out meeting people that could give me work, that could bring work to our firm. And along the way, the first thing that's most important is develop a good accounting system. If you're going to have work, if you're going to be working for DOT, you need a system that's compatible with theirs. So that was part of the learning process. And when you set that up, you've got to go in and set up all of the different elements of that accounting system. It's not something that just happens. You've got to do it yourself. And so at some point I hired a part-time accounting person to come in and work several days. Gradually, the work outgrew her, and I had to get somebody full time. But then we ended up with a lot of part-time engineers working for us, and I was always surprised at how many people who had jobs would agree to come and work for me for another 10, 20 hours a week. And that was just gravy money for them. So we, at one point, we had 5 or 6 part-time engineers working for us before I took the step to hire Monty full-time.
Yeah.
And the next big step, Monty loves space. And so the next big step was him convincing me that we needed to go into 1,000 square feet of office space. And I couldn't believe that we could use 1,000 square feet of office space. And it was going to cost, I had to commit to $8,000 in the first year of payments. That you know, at that point, that was a huge, huge step.
I want to ask you, get back to the accounting system in a bit, but I first want to ask about the one more question about the timing of each of your moves, which I kind of noticed this had in common was at the time you made your move, the general economy was coming out of recession in 1992 and in 2013. We're sort of on the upside economically. Was that a factor at the time, or in retrospect? Peter, start with you. Did you?
I mean, as I said, your mom was kind of by accident, and really, I think it was a coincidence. Actually, the biggest challenge I had was actually I went up and I resigned. I came back down and I had a voicemail, and it was PSMU saying, you know, congratulations, URS, come pick up your 3-year on-call contract to do traffic engineering work. So from that standpoint, I couldn't have timed it worse.
Yeah.
But really, and you know, talking about the power of relationships, you know, there was a lot of people who, you know, I worked with that really went out of their way to help me and to find opportunities. And I just saw in the, you know, one of the questions about, you know, if you're a one-man show, how do you deal with quality control? You know, there's really a special kind of partnership and synergy among small firms. I can call up any number of small firm people and have them look over things. You know, I've contracted out reviews just to make sure, you know, it's a quality product. But the small firm community, there's a lot of people who we all have a common goal, and really, it's a lot of it is relationships. And yeah, my timing wasn't the best, but a lot of people pulled together to help me. And you know, I've tried to, you know, now that I'm more established, reach back and do the same for others.
And Ramey, were you conscious of that 1992 was a good time to start a business because we're about to head into an expansion? Was that on your mind at all, or?
Well, I would want everybody to realize if you're on a path where you've decided a little bit different from Peter, I really admire and respect what he did. But if you're on a path that you decided in high school that you were going to go out on your own, you're not married to the economy. You've already convinced yourself you're going to be successful.
Yeah.
You're going to be successful. Now go make it happen. So there was never a point in which I thought, well, this is a better time than the other. I was always interested in what we were doing at my current job. If we had a 5,000 acre office development, one of the biggest, it may have been the biggest in the country at that time. That was more interesting to me than the economy. I didn't care what the economy was doing. So when we got it to a point where I didn't feel like my part was that important anymore, that's when I wanted to get out.
Yeah. Peter, really appreciated your comments before about, you know, not working past 4 o'clock or trying to balance work and family. And, you know, that's something else I've heard from a lot of small business people through the years is that they end up working all kinds of crazy hours so that the business kind of takes over their life in some ways. But Ramey, do you have any observations on that? Did you, you seem to me you managed to find a balance there, work and family?
I, contrary to Peter, I just always have worked long hours. I can't find that. I'm always looking for the next work. And so I work long hours. And I've always done this. And if you ask some of my fellow workers here at our company, when do you sleep? Because they get emails at 4 in.the morning, they get them at 2 in.the morning, they get them at 6 in.the morning, and then they get them at 5 p.m. or 3. To them, I'm 24/7. So contrary to what Peter ran into, I love work, and I don't think I'm ever going to quit. I don't know that most of you know, I'm 80 years old, and I love work now. Even now, I just cannot find enough time in the day to do all the things I want to do.
Yeah. Good. Let's get back to that accounting system. How do you find people like that? You can't you can't do all of that, right? Become an expert in taxes and accounting and equipment, and we're chatting about air conditioning systems before the recording started here. So how do you find those people to help you do all of those things?
I mean, for me, actually, I kind of do all of them. The only thing I really have is an accountant to do my annual taxes. So I do my own accounting, I do my own IT. And so I probably could do things better, but really the way I look at it is I've tried to optimize my company around really a minimal, what's the most efficient way of doing everything. I have a fully compliant accounting system, but I choose to not, dig too far into the details. I just look at it as I have a pile of money. I spend that money, and if there's anything left, that's profit. If there's not, then I need to figure out why there wasn't. And more often than not, there's something there. So I tend not to dig too much into those things. But really, I negotiate my own leases. I work with the retirement company, the healthcare people. So I enjoy that, though. That's kind of, as an engineer, you're always looking to take on a new challenge and find out, how do you optimize that system? That's what we're usually all about. And I found it to be a pretty good little, thought experiment of how do you go in and engineer the perfect company. And I don't know that I'm there yet, but I think there's and until you can understand all the variables. So I tend not to delegate too much until I fully understand. I've since brought somebody in to do the data input, but I'm still fully involved in all aspects of what we do.
And Ramey, through my time with your company, I was always impressed with the legal side, the accounting side. You have I think a great team around you, but the question is, how'd you assemble that team to support you?
I think it all starts initially, just like Peter said, with you do it all. If you're a one-man office, you're going to do it all. When you start adding people, the first thing that you realize is you've got to bring in work. If you're going to have 5 people working for you, you've made a commitment to 5 people that you're going to keep them on the payroll forever, and they're going to be busy. So you've got to get out and bring in that work. Hopefully it's work that just falls in your lap, but I've never found it to be that way. It's always work you generate. And as you get bigger, you start adding people and you start assigning duties. And so then at some point you add a full-time accountant. then you might add a full-time marketing person. And I will say marketing for an engineering company, the best marketing you can have is when Peter goes out to meet with people, he's going to bring in the work, but you've got to have somebody to generate marketing materials that explain what your company does and how well they do it. And that's what you leave with people when you go knock on their door. So those people are very vital, and that's what I call marketing. Ronald Stevenson and our company has done a great job of dividing marketing between business development. Business development is when you go out and knock on doors. Marketing is when you bring it in and you give them a great package, or you respond to a request for a proposal. And but it all develops slowly as you grow. And if your growth is your goal, which you've got to decide if that's going to be your goal. It was our goal from day one. We wanted to grow. And how do you grow? You've got to decide how you're going to grow. Is it going to be one office? Is it going to be 15? Or is it going to be 45? But how big do you want to be? So we set those goals very early. I mean, it was the first year or two that we started talking about how we were going to grow and what we wanted to accomplish as we grew.
And Peter, you've had an interesting strategy as far as growth with your company. If you wouldn't mind telling us.
Yeah, I mean, my goal has never been to be the biggest. I've read a lot of leadership books, things like that, and to me, taking the opportunity to gain knowledge every day. I look at it as you can do things and you can run them efficiently. I've chosen really my growth goal is to get to maybe 8 people. I think I can know everything that's going on with 8 people and still run the business the way I want to. My business model probably doesn't scale to the large, 200 plus. And to me, I want to grow to 8, diversify my client base, and then be more selective in the work I go after. I think, you can, it still allows you to innovate and to take on the best projects. And, one of the things, somebody said, in the chat says, so, I started a business to reduce my stress. And it's actually, I'm a lot less stressed than I used to be. Because I've learned to say no. And when you're working in a big company, they tell you what to do and you do it. I'm comfortable saying no. I'm comfortable saying it's not the right time. I'd love to help you out. And really I've said, the times I've said no is, I can't do it for you now, but this is when I can give it to you. And most times they've said, well, either we want this now and we can slide this. So people have worked with me. And so to me, it's the, I've just the business model I've chosen is to stay small and just try to be the absolute best at what we do, as opposed to diversify and grow.
I really appreciate the contrast there and between the two of you. And there's probably certainly other answers there too, but it shows there's more than one way to gain that kind of success. That's awesome. Ramey, what if there's some younger members listening in? I hope there are. What would you advise them is the best preparation for starting their company someday? Looking back, did you take a course, or did you get something from a mentor, or what was the best way you prepared, or that they should prepare?
Something Peter just said reminded me, Joe, and I wanted to get this in. There's a succession here of things you need to do if you want to be successful and want to establish a company. And regardless of the size, if you want to get to the point where you're very good at what you do, you need the undergraduate degree in engineering. You need the master's degree in engineering in whatever specialty you choose. And then you need an MBA if you if you still have time to work that in, or you need to get as much management courses into your knowledge as you can, because those are the three important areas that will cover everything you need to start your own business. After that, it's up to you. And so you need to keep a great focus on what you're going to do, and the fact that you're going to be successful. Don't let you tend, if you talk too much about what you're going to do when you're in high school or college, or right after that, you'll find people said, "Oh, you can't do that. That's that's ridiculous." No, don't ever listen to that. You've got to decide what you're going to do and go do it, and always have that attitude that this is going to work. We're going to make it work, and it's going to be great.
Very, very good. Very good. It's about time to go to questions. Hopefully, if you've had a question along the way, put that into the Q&A. Andy, do we have some good questions queued up there for our guests?
The only question we've received to this point, I know Peter touched on it a bit, but I'd be interested to hear what Ramey has to say about that quality control question. When you're in that time period when it's just you at the beginning, how do you ensure quality in the work that you do?
Well, I think the important thing there is when you're just starting out, the quality you're trying to achieve, and you're not going to accept anything less. And the guys that worked for me part-time when we first got started, the first 3 or 4 years, they got irritated with me right quick because we weren't going to accept anything but just almost a perfect product. And so you set that example, and then as you grow, you've got to assign that responsibility to somebody. So as we grew and I was doing more marketing and other things, the responsibility was turned over to Monty to handle the quality control. And then as we grew and Monty got busy doing other things, it was turned over to someone else. But I would say right now we've got 3 or 4 of us that are always concerned about quality. And but being an ESOP, an employee-owned company, really helps, because you get the pride of an owner involved in what your product is, and they're going to be sure that it looks real good and the numbers are factual and correct.
Yeah, Ramey, I have to say, when I joined the board and found out what an ESOP was, I thought it was the greatest thing I'd ever heard. It just, what an awesome way. Whoever thought of that thing? And maybe we should do another conversation just on that concept and how it works and why it works. But terrific thing when employees have a stake in the outcome. Peter, as far as I know, you don't have an MBA. Correct me if I'm wrong, but did you take short courses or workshops?
I didn't, and actually, I wanted to throw this in is there's so many resources out there. It's not like when we were younger, and if you want to learn something, you got to send away for a correspondence course in TV VCR repair. I mean, there's so many resources out there. Podcasts. I've learned to I take walks. If any of you get calls from them, usually out on a walk. Listen to a podcast, videos. There's so many resources out there. I don't feel like I could get an MBA, but I can get just as much and probably more specialized to what I'm looking for. Everybody's got content available out there. You just have to look for it. So I think there's resources out there. You just have to look and have a quest for knowledge.
Very good. Good. Andy, did I see another question come in?
I don't see any other questions that we've received so far. It was just the one question. Again, if anybody has, any questions they want to make sure they get in, we're using the Q&A feature here on Zoom. So make sure you get them in here in the next couple of minutes.
Oh, Andy, actually, it was in the chat rather than the Q&A.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Ruben Moore, and this is good. Yeah, EOC issues, employee.
Is that, he's talking about ESOP, ESP? Is that what maybe the question is?
Yeah.
I think he's asking about the ESOP that you mentioned.
Okay.
It is, and to spend maybe a minute on that.
Yeah, that's, I'll define it. And then Ramey, if you wouldn't mind giving a follow-up there, employee stock option program, a chance for employees to buy stock in the company like Ramey was describing with Brown and Root, but a formalized way that has tax advantages for the company. And of course, then that incentive for the employee to help make the company better. Ramey?
I think the great thing about ESOPs, Joe, is that when you join a company that has an ESOP, you become an owner from day one. You start accumulating stock in the company, stock ownership, and it goes into a large area of accounting where the stock is kept up for you. You don't get a certificate unless you want a copy of the certificate, but it's there. You own stock. It builds every year that you're with the company. Typically, you have to be with the company for 3 years to be fully invested. They call it vested. But once you're vested, your stock ownership goes up every year. We tell our people, and I probably shouldn't be saying this, but we tell our people at annual meetings that if you stay with us 17 or 18 years through our program, and if you match our IRA money, we contribute up to 6% towards IRAs. If you and you can match that money, we ask you to match it. So that's 12%. You put in 6, we put in 6, and then we add in stock every year. If we make a profit or if we grow, growth alone will add value to a stock. And then we have distributions if we have profit on top of that, which is typically we do. So all of those ways come into focus with an ESOP. And if you stay with us for 17, 18 years and follow that guideline, you can pretty well program it out. You're going to be worth $1 million.
So yeah, the chance to really gain terrific wealth if the company does well, and there's the incentive. France Campbell asks a interesting question that I had actually on my list here too. And Peter, let's start with you. How did your company weather the NCDOT slowdown, and then maybe generalize that and say, slowdowns are going to happen. So how do you be?
I mean, not very well would be the easy answer. We went a little over 6 months without sending out a single invoice. So we went 6 months without any revenue. But I look at challenges as opportunities. So actually, what we did is we scaled back a little. We cut to 32 hours for about a 12-week period. We benefit from a PPP loan. And we figured out ways to we looked at every process we do, and we looked at ways to innovate. So I look at it as we are coming out stronger than we were going in. I think we know more. We have the ability to do things more efficiently. So we took it as a time to really reinvest the way we do things, look to innovate, and we've been successful so far. We're we're tracking, according to our plan for the year, this year. So we're optimistic that things are getting back. But really, it was, take a challenge and turn it into an opportunity. And that's kind of what we did.
And Ramey, if you wouldn't mind talking us through the 2008, 2009, the Great Recession there, and how your company kind of weathered that storm.
That wasn't a good time for anybody in the business. We started 2008 with a lot of work, and by the end of the year, we had not gained any new work after the middle of the year. It just dried up. Now we had a lot of projects we were working on and were finishing, but we lost people during that period. I don't know that we actually had some people that were not doing their work at the level we needed. I think there were 4 of those, and we asked them to leave. But that's a rarity with our company. We typically don't ask people to leave. We will keep you on and figure out a way to get through it. And that's what we did. We had a number of people who left us because they didn't realize that this was a recession and we were in a tough time. They thought they'd leave us and walk out on the street and get a new job. And it didn't work that way with everybody. So, but we told them, now look, don't leave. But if you leave, we're not going to take you back because we committed to you when you came here. But if you leave us, the commitment is gone. So we did our best to keep everybody gainfully employed and going and working well. But we still had people leave. And some of them went out and found jobs after a period of time. But very few of them stepped right into a new job when they left.
That was a tough time. We're coming up on 1 p.m. I see one more interesting question from Ricky Green for both of you. And Ramey, if you wouldn't mind starting, and then Peter. And this will probably be pretty much our wrap up is, what was the one thing you wish you had done differently in the first couple of years after you started your business? And this kind of a key lesson learned that you can pass on to the people listening.
Very important. If you're going to grow by expanding and opening up new offices, we made a bad mistake in opening up an office without putting putting time into managing that office and helping the person we put in there as manager. You don't want to take somebody and just put them in an office and say, okay, it's your opportunity. Go manage that office and do well. No, you need to help them. And if they run into problems, usually the problems is just making money. You bring in the work, but can you do that work profitably? And so that's in some cases it's a matter of marketing and getting out there and finding the work for that new office manager. Sometimes it's just managing the work to make a profit, and you've got to be ready to help. I mean, to go to the point of going to that office and spending several days a week until it's all worked out.
And Peter, got 1 minute for the sort of last word here on lesson learned.
I mean, I'll be honest, I have very few regrets about what I've done. And I think the one thing, so I look at them as opportunities. I think the thing that was the best opportunity for me was learning to take things a lot less seriously. There's a lot of things that go on that you can't control, and you have to, you can only control what you can control. And if you see it through that lens, it helps you sleep a lot better at night. And I've learned that over the last 8 years. A lot of things happen that I can't control, and decisions that are made that, I don't have, and just control what you can and do the best that you can. And that to me was the best lesson I've learned.
Well, that's awesome. Clock says 1 o'clock. Thank you both for what I think was a terrific conversation. I learned a lot. I hope the people watching and listening did as well. I really appreciate it. There's much more on this topic, of course. I think I've got another couple pages of questions, so maybe we'll revisit at some point. But I think we got a good start here. Really appreciate both of you joining us and your candid conversation here. Andy, I think we're done. Going to turn it back to you for any last words you have. But thanks to everybody who was watching. Really appreciate it. What you got, Andy?
Yeah, just a reminder to everybody that if you signed up, then you'll receive a link in your email inbox later on today detailing how to fill out your evaluations and as well how to get your PDH credits for today's webinar. Again, if you have any questions, suggestions, comments, or otherwise, feel free to email me. I'm about to put up the closing slide so you can email me directly. And again, we will announce our next topic and webinar whenever we get it worked out. Keep an eye on the Nixite website and keep your eye out for an email in your inbox for that as well.
Very good. Thanks, everybody. Take care. Until next time.